How do you balance your time? I mean, that's one tip you can actually give me.
Who says I do? Saying that you balance everything perfectly every single day is a myth and a lie.
My domains are completely different with software and construction.
Yes.
So mixing them up is a mayhem. To my project managers, I call them product managers at times. The product managers, I call them project managers. And I give them the data of another business. The father is the driving force behind this, and he has like a 70 years of legacy with Cream Center.
Yes.
So don't you think it puts a lot of pressure for you to get this right?
You're upset for a minute, allow your emotions to be there, fine, but get on with it. And I think that's just kind of what you have to do. There isn't a luxury always of sitting and sulking over it or being really upset over it.
Especially due to the ready-to-eat market.
Yes.
Like you can have it in a scoop ready to go at any point of time. You have vendors at every location.
True.
So it must be a very tedious job to get the product or the market fit right.
And I think you gotta really remember why you started.
Hello everyone, so welcome again to another episode of Life Unscripted, where we explore the lifestyle, the journey and the experiences of people who have been there and done that. The people who have gone from low to high, high to low and done it all over again. People who have fallen and gotten up, people who have taken the next step, people who have taken steps to diversify their business, people who have struggled and came out stronger. So let me welcome today Alisha Shah, who is the co-founder and director for Ice Cream Works and also the founder for the newly launched brand Gold by Ice Cream Works. She is a pioneer in the business of ice cream. She is trying to diversify and take over the Indian market with new thoughts, new methodologies and new kind of taste which you will just get in love with. So welcome Alisha.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being on this podcast with us.
Thanks for having me, Sharad.
I hope you're having a great day today. I think the weather is not very healthy at the moment.
No, but we shall make it better with this conversation, I'm sure.
That's amazing, and that's the kind of spirit what we talk about at Life Unscripted. So Alisha, tell me, like you started Ice Cream Works in 2016.
Yes.
And you took it to different heights. And now you have started a new brand, Gold.
Yes.
So gold, just the word gold sparks luxury. So why did you think that there is another space for a more luxurious ice cream brand in India?
So I think in the last decade, India's changed. India is changing as we speak, as a landscape, as the kind of spending habits of our diaspora. And we genuinely believe that we were ready to launch from my father and I, Sanjeev, and myself, what was a complete passion project, something that was whimsical, something that appealed to not only your taste buds, but all your senses. When you walk in, the kind of feeling you get, the smell that you smell, the sort of different textures we've used in the interiors. We really wanted to do something that was absolutely gorgeous, not just in taste. And I think that's why we launched Gold. It really has been a passion project for Dad and I. We love this industry. We love trying new things. We love eating all around the world. And that's really what we've tried to express through Gold, through ice cream in this brand. And I hope everyone else is seeing it that way as well.
So there's a lot of passion coming through when you talk about Gold.
Absolutely,
and the
yes.
way you have built it. So can you tell me a little bit more about the journey, like the thought process that started it, as you mentioned right now, along with the menu? How did you curate that kind of menu in India?
Actually, Dad and I sit and laugh. We cannot remember where the idea exactly got born. But as far back as we remember, we've always wanted to do something that was more sort of luxury, that had ingredients from all over the world. So Dad and I travel a lot around the world. It's something we both absolutely love doing. Seeing new cultures, meeting new people, trying new foods. Food is an essential part of all our travels. We always have breakfast, lunch and dinner sort of booked out, and trying new ingredients, new things, new tastes from all around the world. And that's kind of where our journey led us towards Gold, where we wanted sort of the best pistachio from Sicily. We wanted to get that Amanera cherry that you only get in a certain region in Italy. We wanted to get sort of the cacao chocolates from the different parts of Africa where they're sourced organically. We wanted to find all these amazing ingredients, not just from all over the world, from our own country as well, and sort of use that in the different products we sort of put forth in our menu in Gold. But it wasn't just about the flavors. We wanted to also create ice cream in a way that wasn't just a scoop. We've got sundaes that are absolutely amazing with different textures and layering coming through. We have something that we call sort of a spaghetti sundae, so it's playing with texture again, it's playing with sight. We have a bread that we've homemade, and we've mixed that with salt and butter and sugar, and sort of it's all kind of those various tastes coming together in your mouth. So for us, I think it's been just a journey of putting together our favorite tastes from all over the world, different experiences we've personally had from different parts of the world, and kind of Indianizing it still, making sure it's still acceptable to the Indian palate, it makes sense to us. And it is also still a little adventurous. So that is kind of how I think the menu came together. It was a year and a half, 2 years of work we put in, experimenting, trying to get the fat, trying to get like kulfi. We've got an ice cream flavor in kulfi, and it's what we believe the first scoopable kulfi in India. And getting that actual texture correct took us so long to try and find that exact formula that that kind of melts in your mouth, but you're still getting the creaminess, the nuts are coming through, so you can still hear it, I'm sure. There's a lot of passion, a lot of love, a lot of time that has gone behind the menu, the thought process, and the brand.
I'm just wondering who was the trial guy? Because if it took you 2 years to get the kulfi right, somebody would have tried it.
We all did. So a lot of trials. Honestly, my father is the driving force behind the creativity of the brand. He is an absolute genius when it comes to putting flavors together. He's been in the F&B industry his whole life since he was 18. And now he's 65. So the vast experience he brings to the brand and to sort of the creativity of everything we do is just amazing.
So as you mentioned that the father is the driving force behind this, and he has like a 70 years of legacy with Cream Center.
Yes.
If I'm right.
Yes.
So don't you think it puts a lot of pressure for you to get this right?
Pressure, I'm not someone who gets pressurized very easily. I think when Dad and I started working together back in the day with Cream Center, I was fresh out of college. I think it was more of a struggle there to kind of find, I would say, our tunes to each other, like to find how we work. It was also a lot of learning for me to find my way where he respects what I have to say. Fast forward now, we've been working for many years together, a decade. I think we're in a very, very healthy place where we know what each other's strengths are very clearly. We play off them. We're really, we work very well together because we're almost like a yin and yang that comes together. He is this crazy, creative man who has these wonderful ideas and executes them to the T, and I'm sort of more the operations and the finance and the legal and all sort of the practical side of it all, where I'm like, okay, now how do we grow this? How do we build it? Okay, that flavor is great, but I cannot sell it for 600 rupees. So, slash the price. So I think kind of we play off each other in a really beautiful way. And, Dad and I have always had a really beautiful relationship. Don't get me wrong, there are its ups and downs. We've had our fights, we've had our struggles. We've definitely disagreed on certain things. But I think where we are right now, if both of us are not able to come to the same page, there are certain things where he's got the veto on, and there's certain topics where I've got the veto on, and we respect each other's decisions greatly. And I think that's a great place to be. But at the same time, I think it's always healthy to have someone who's pushing your boundaries and questioning what you're thinking. Because I think if, the entrepreneurship journey can be quite lonely if you're doing it alone, but to have my father there and to kind of bounce off ideas, for him to do the same with me, I think kind of pushes your mind to always think differently and have more than one perspective. So I think more than stress, I think, don't get me wrong, there have been ups and downs, but I really view it as an amazing journey that we've had together thus far.
I would like to have one more add-on question to this.
Yes.
Like as you mentioned, it took you 2.5 years to get it right and to launch the product. 2.5 years is like about 800 days or
yes.
So don't you think that there were times where you lost hope or your father lost hope? What was that situation like, and how did you come out of it?
Yeah, of course. I think we all have our low days where it's like, oh my God, is this ever going to happen? And not getting the right location, not getting the formulas right, the costing's not happening. When our ingredients came, the clearance wasn't happening. Where you feel like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? And is it really worth it? And I think you got to really remember why you started. And I think before starting any sort of journey like this with a new brand, which is genuinely like having a child altogether, you have to remember, why am I doing this? What is the reason? What am I hoping to achieve at the end? And on days like this, you kind of remind yourself, no, okay, today is a bad day. We'll stop today, tomorrow will be better. And I think this is one of the biggest things in entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is not giving up, failing quickly, learning from those failures. There's no entrepreneur I know who hasn't failed. It's not possible. We all fail. I saw something recently in some book that I read that even the tennis players, if you see the number of hits that they've had versus the failed shots that they've had, I mean, if you look at the percentages even of the greats, the failures are significantly more. But the thing is that those days where you are failing, where you are feeling hopeless, what do you do about it? How do you pick up and how do you continue the next day? That's the main thing that makes an entrepreneur, or any field, I would say, great or successful at the end of it.
Now, talking about gold per se and ice cream works along with that, ice cream is a very cluttered space, especially due to the ready-to-eat market.
Yes.
Like you can have it in a scoop ready to go at any point of time. You have vendors at every location.
True.
So it must be a very tedious job to get the product or the market fit right.
Correct.
So what kind of challenges did you face in this regard? What kind of barriers did you have to break to actually get the people to come over and have that experience altogether?
So, when we launched Ice Cream Works back in 16, there were a lot of hurdles. So we were entering a space that was very crowded with very big players in the market, right? So we had all the big boys who had been there for decades on end, selling very cheap, very sort of low-priced, still good quality ice cream. So entering was no easy feat. But with Ice Cream Works, what I really wanted to do was bring back the joy of eating ice cream. So I thought when I looked around me, ice cream had become quite transactional, just like you mentioned. It was available everywhere. Do you remember when you were a child and you walked into the store and that happiness you had on your face, कि आज ice cream milne wala hai? Like, I mean, that was like, it was the highlight of your day, right? Now, I wanted to bring back that emotion. For me, always, through my journey in F&B, I believe that what we're really selling is an emotion. It's not that you're just selling food. And even with Ice Cream Works, we really stuck to our guns. There was a lot of pressure to put the prices down, to change my format, not spend that much money on the capex to make the place beautiful, not spend money on the training to make our employees more friendly in their approach when they were selling the ice cream to you. But I was very sure that I wanted to create something that was a little bit more of an experience, even with Ice Cream Works at that lower price point. I wanted to do something that really brought back that emotion, the joy. And that's why the name also, Ice Cream Works. It works because you're sad. It works because you got fired. It works because you got engaged. It works because you're just having a lovely day and you want to go out and have an ice cream with your kid. And it's not just for children, I think as adults, we have such busy and hectic lives. Bringing back those small moments of joy in whichever way you can, and we are trying to do it with our brand, that's really important. So for us, yes, it was a great struggle to kind of prove ourselves, but we really stuck to our guns. We said our experience is going to be a little different. And, luckily it paid off for us. So here we are, still standing strong.
So why just ice cream? I mean, with all your conversation, I totally agree that you have created a magical experience with Ice Cream Works. I am not a very ice cream kind of guy, but now I feel that I need to visit that gold store and see what it offers.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to take recommendations of the menu though.
Yes.
But before that, why just ice cream? Like, I think in India, it is more of a seasonal business. So why didn't you think of exploring it more into cakes or pastries or multiple things which can go well with ice cream?
Absolutely. So I think to answer your questions in two parts really. The first part is that actually Cream Center, which is a brand that's been in my family for 65 years, started by my grandfather, originally started as an ice cream factory. And I don't think anyone actually, not many people know this, not anyone, but not many people. And thus the name Cream Center, actually it makes more sense as an ice cream brand rather than a vegetarian restaurant. And there was some sort of pull towards doing what my grandfather did, doing it in the same factory. I first started out my brand in the same factory that he had, started. My father lost his father quite young. So when he did, he had shut down the ice cream factory and he continued on with Cream Center, and then his journey took him many places, different companies that he sold over the years. So that was one reason, I think, was just part of my history with my family. And the second was genuinely because I saw a gap in the market when I started out Ice Cream Works. There were a lot of big players in the market, but there was no one niche and small that could adapt quickly. So for example, we came out with a pan flavor, which now is quite popular, but I was like, how do I take things that are very Indian and give that back to the Indian consumer? How do I do things that are seasonally fitting? So for example, in December, we used to come out with 12 flavors of chocolate. And it was kind of like all the various Christmas desserts. How do I have these sort of things when I'm a huge MNC? It's a little harder. That's what I wanted to get to the table with Ice Cream Works. Ability to move a little faster with what we were doing, adapt to various changing sort of tastes and taste buds over the seasons. So it was just genuinely a niche I saw, thought it could be easily tapped, and that's what we did.
And as you have, as I know that you are an Oxford alumni, you have also studied in the US, you have also done LLB in India. That's like a varied kind of exposure that you have in your education.
Yes.
Now, when we try to club it together and we paste it to the Indian market, it won't work. So how did you acquire the requisite knowledge to build something like this?
Honestly, I think, colleges, my undergrad, my postgrad, my law, a lot of it is, what you take from it is not specifically potentially like, okay, I learned how to model something. That doesn't apply to real life in most cases. In my opinion, my MBA was a lot more fluid, where we did do a lot more sort of, in Oxford, we applied a lot more to the real world rather than studying out of textbooks. Of course, I am born and brought up in India. So for me, the goal has always been go get the education, go understand certain concepts. So that's what really Oxford, I would say, taught me, was how to think differently, how to think outside a box, and then how to apply to different scenarios. And in our case, business functions differently in different countries. So you can't say, okay, I learned this model there and I can copy paste it here. It doesn't work that way. You have to really understand the heart of what you're doing, which is the consumer. Who is the consumer? What are they? What do they want? And I think my education has been amazing. It gave me a really different approach to the way I think. And it also taught me how to apply that thinking to various scenarios outside where I was studying it. So outside the UK, outside the US. And I think that's what I've applied back in India. It's not specifically maybe the concept I learned, but really the way I've learned how to think outside the box.
Okay. Moving on, tell me that you have Cream Center on one hand, then you have Ice Cream Works, and now you have Gold.
Yes.
So there are 3 different brands that you're operating. You are staying in Dubai.
Yes.
Your team and your business is in India. You also have a 4-year-old kid
yes,
with you.
I do.
So now, how do you balance your time? I mean, that's one tip you can actually give me.
Who says I do? No, but
That's a good
more seriously, I think it's saying that you balance everything perfectly every single day is a myth and a lie. I don't every single day. It's not possible. There are different phases in life that demand different attentions. So for me personally, you're constantly juggling different balls, and I would say you have various businesses. You have your family and your child. You have your own health that you need to take care of as well to be the best version of yourself. And I think there are different phases where you say, okay, I'm going to put this ball down for a minute. Instead of dropping the ball per se. So you kind of master that. I don't want to drop any balls, but I'm going to purposefully put that ball down for a short period. So for example, when Gold was launching, I was back and forth between Dubai and Bombay literally every 2 weeks. Spent a lot of time away from my son. And I knew that that's a ball that I'm going to have to put down for a bit to be able to launch this brand. the other essential thing is having the teams in place. I mean, my husband is a tremendous support to raising my son. My family here is a tremendous support to running the business. Or even now, for example, I've traveled to Bombay for a week. My mom's helping out with my son while I'm able to go to work. My team behind Ice Cream Works and Goals, some of the people I have in place are absolutely outstanding, without whom I could not do what I do day in and day out. So I think the two main takeaways for me is, number one, understanding for yourself that you're not going to be able to do everything every single day, and just having that priority list. Aaj kya karna hai? What do I need to achieve today? And understanding that not every day I'm going to be able to do all 100 things, because then I'll start doing them badly. And secondly, having those people, having your village. It takes a village to raise a child, and honestly, a business is as good as a child. So you need various villages around you to support you through those sort of moments where you can't do everything, and making sure that whatever you're kind of taking your foot off the pedal from is still being taken care of by the team around you.
So before I get into the team wala part, which is very exciting and I would like to explore more, I would also want to know, what does a day in Alisha's life look as? Like,
Never
if
the
you have
same 2 days.
because in today's day and age, I think everybody is gunning towards productivity.
Yes.
I think most of the entrepreneurs, sooner or later, they just are not happy with one brand. They want to have multiple brands.
Sure.
So you, as a person who has done it and who has been stable in it, I think it's more about being sustainable in those kind of scenarios. Can you take us through your day so that we can have an idea of what works?
That's a tough one, because no 2 days of mine particularly look very
The best
similar.
day.
But I mean, honestly, the days kind of go towards, I always wake up quite early in the morning. I spend some time with my son, get him off to school or whatever it is that, he has some class or whatever. So for me, mornings really are about spending some time getting him geared up for his day. Post which I most days take an hour out for myself, where I either do yoga or I weight train or I go for a run. Something to sort of, it's me time, where I gear myself up for what it is that I want to do for the rest of the day as well, and I kind of get into a mindset. Most days that'll end with like a 5 or 10 minutes small meditation, some breath work, just to really set up the day, and then the kind of day launches. The night before, I normally sit down in my little diary, also because sometimes I can't sleep, so this helps me sleep better. I write down in my little diary what my priorities are for the next day. So what is it that I need to achieve tomorrow? Or as an entrepreneur, as any business owner, as even as an employee in most businesses, I think our to-do lists in today's day and age are never ending. For me, the night before is to kind of prioritize what it is from this to-do list that I have to get done tomorrow. And I do kind of, in my diary itself, time a lot myself. Okay, I'm going to take 15 minutes for this, I'm going to take 30 minutes for this. I don't start with emails. I do emails a little later in the day, because once you get into the emails, it just takes the whole day. It never ends. So normally I start off with some meetings or any work that I need to do on my own, and then I kind of go through the list. I also try my best to make sure that I don't spend too much time on anything, because now I know all that I have to get done. I also know how many hours I have to get that done. So that's how most of the day goes. Hours on end, personal meetings, Zoom meetings, work that I need to do on my own, returning emails and calls and things like that. Is juggling between various brands, various businesses, depending what needs me the most. It's awful to say, but where's the burning fire? Where is the burning fire, and how do you put it out, and how do you, live to fight another day? Towards the end of the day, my husband, my son, and I all eat dinner quite early together. By 6:30ish, we're on the table eating dinner. Normally put my son to sleep, read him his bedtime stories, post which I normally would go for a walk. And I get into bed quite early myself. So normally get into bed by 9:30, 10, try and be asleep soon after that. That's kind of... That too in Dubai. I mean, of course, you have your social life, and it's not that I don't go out and I have lots of friends, but I try to limit that to the weekend as much as I possibly can.
So, as you mentioned, this is to sum up the great schedule or the ideal schedule what Alisha follows. Get up early, get your day in order, do some deep work, and then the business part, and then family time.
Yes.
So in the business wala part, I have another question. You have multiple brands.
Yes.
So like in my scenario, I sometimes tend to mix them up. Like, because you're working on one thing and then suddenly another fire came up on the next. You tend to mix them up, and at times there might be certain outbursts.
Yes.
So how do you keep yourself in check?
I think the main thing, again, like I've said, is just knowing what needs to get done in that day. And sometimes, like you said, something could come up that you didn't have planned for. And that can very often happen where some sort of random thing comes up that needs your urgent attention. But as an entrepreneur, something that I've always been good at anyway is multitasking and kind of switching my brain from place to place. And I think that's a skill that you need to learn and kind of have. Staying calm in those moments, getting, oh God, now this has also come, or how am I going to manage this? That is actually taking more energy and more time. And it's not that that won't happen and you won't have that emotion, but kind of seeing that, recognizing it and kind of saying, okay, no, I really need to get on with it. And I think that's a phrase that I use a lot. Okay, you're upset for a minute, allow your emotions to be there. And I think that's just kind of what you have to do. There isn't a luxury always of sitting and sulking over it or being really upset over it. Fine, you can do that, but maybe after the fire has been put out, So I think that's the main way of just really focusing on what it is that you have to do.
That
and
ultimate goal.
Absolutely. And I think if you keep that always kind of in your rear view mirror, that this is where I need to reach, then as these things come up, you're like, okay, fine, this is also manageable. This is also doable, but it's getting me one step closer to where I want to be, where I want to go. So I think that is the way that I try and keep the focus, try and keep sort of the positivity. And it is a really essential part is keeping your sort of positivity high. And I think that really helps when you have someone you're also working with. So sometimes just being like, okay, Dad, I really need to vent to you. And, this has happened and it's really awful. And, okay, now I'm done and I get on with it. So having that sounding board really helps as well.
Okay, that's actually enlightening to understand, because me per se, I find it very difficult because my domains are completely different. It's software and construction.
Yes.
So mixing them up is a mayhem. So to my project managers, I call them product managers at times. The product managers, I call them project managers, and I give them the data of another business.
Oh gosh.
So I really need to learn the skill and ace it sooner or later. Now, when we talk about, as I mentioned, the project managers, let's talk about team.
Yes.
You are sitting in Dubai. As you said, you need a village to raise a business up and running. How do you think that you manage your HR very well? What kind of people you look for? What are the key traits that you would like to have in your villages?
For me, the key trait is someone who can adapt to different situations. So I think the biggest thing about a business, especially when you're going from a startup journey, is failing fast, failing quickly, learning from those failures and moving really fast to the next step. So I need somebody who can adapt to various circumstances very quickly, who doesn't get stuck in aise hi karne ke, oh, I thought it had to be this way, but I failed this way. It's going to happen, again and again and again, and that's the cycle. And I think the greatest businesses have learned to quickly adapt to whatever their failure was. So the key thing I genuinely look for is people who are quick on their feet, able to adapt, able to learn from their mistakes very quickly, and they don't get stuck on, this was the way I thought it would be, so this is the way I should keep trying. It's like hitting your head against a wall after a certain point. You have to know when it is time to move really fast, and simultaneously it's difficult, but you need to know when you need to actually stick to your guns as well. So I need somebody who can adapt to various scenarios, who can think on their feet. I think that's, for me, the most important, who's very confident in the way they speak, the way they conduct themselves. Because ice cream and in the business that way, a lot of it is sales, a lot of it is pitching yourself, whether it's to distributors or to the customer, in the smaller shops. So right from the salesman who's selling that scoop of ice cream, right to my head of ops, who has to continuously sell the brand to various different vendors. I think sales is a very important skill to have. The ability to sell ice to an Eskimo, as one would say, is quite essential in our business, because we are trying to sell ice cream. So these are the basic things I look for within somebody. Someone who's honest and hardworking, honest in what they bring to the table, and honest in what they can't do. I really appreciate someone who will come to me and say, I'm actually really not good at this. I really need some assistance or help, or I'd like some sort of further education or classes. That's something I'm very supportive of. My father's always taught me, and I think one of the biggest things I've taken from him is relationships. Not just with people around you, but your employees specifically, how you take care of them, how you build them up. These are the people that are there day in and day out. So having them succeed is your success. How do you build them up? How do you give them confidence? How do you give them that training? How do you set them up for success? That's the main thing that you need to do towards HR. And you also need to find the right fit within the company. So like I said, for me, these are the qualities that are really important. They might be different for different businesses, of course, but this is what we look for as a company.
So when we say that in the F&B business, if somebody new is trying to come in,
Yes.
or for example, if you're launching another brand,
Yes.
or if you're expanding a brand, there are three pillars with you. First is your stakeholders, of course, that can be your father in this regard. The second are the employees, and the third are the clients, the customers.
Yes.
Which one would you prioritize the most, and which one would you prioritize the third?
That's a tough one. So I think what I would prioritize as a start-off business is definitely the team that I build. I think without them, you're really nothing. I think the second is definitely the investment, in the sense that without the stakeholders or the partners or the money, so as to speak, you don't have a business. The reason I say the third, the customer, is the business cannot start off without knowing the heart of what it is. Who is the customer? What are you trying to sell? Who are you trying to sell it to? But you can't do the third without the first two. You can't take care of that customer unless your team is in place and they're interacting with them day in and day out. So for me, having that team in place is absolutely essential, right from the head to the absolute lower rung in terms of salary pay, but they're the ones who are my heart. They're the ones who stand behind that counter and, pitch my brand, talk about the flavors, sell to the customer day in and day out. So without them, I'm nothing.
So having moved to Dubai, do you think that there are some interesting trends which you're going to bring into India further?
Honestly, India already has so much. So, I mean, yes, Dubai
Take from
has.
us and,
I want to
put it
take
there.
gold and ice cream box to Dubai. So, I want to take my brands there. Of course, there are lots of things that happen in Dubai. I think the markets are slightly different in terms of the UAE region and India as two different regions completely. The sensibilities are a little different for the consumer. There are some fabulous ideas, but for me, more than getting something from Dubai to India, my focus really, hopefully in the next few years, is to take my brand to Dubai instead. So that's kind of where my head's at the moment.
That's great. So now coming to the simpler parts, as I mentioned that now I'm actually excited to go to Gold and try the fabulous products you have there. So consider I am going with my wife and my two kids. One is 5, one is 2. Now tell me one thing which I should try, one thing for my wife to keep her happy, and for the kids to go nuts.
Absolutely. So what I think you should try is my absolute favorite flavor, which is the kulfi scoopable ice cream that we've made.
Is it the same thing which took 2 years to produce?
Yes,
okay.
It is.
That's on my list.
It is. And it is my favorite flavor because it's got like this burnt milk with like a bucket load of nuts and crunchiness coming through every bite. I love kulfi, but I don't like the experience of eating kulfi because it's cold and frozen in your mouth. I don't like that. So we've created something that's just every bite is creamy and just really melts in your mouth. So definitely try that for yourself. For your kids, we have a whole kids menu that is specifically catered to him. Like we mentioned at the beginning, I have a 4-year-old myself, so that was really important to me for them to come in and really enjoy and dig their hands in. We've got some beautiful Murano sort of bowls which have like little frog faces and bear faces, and we make little sundaes out of it at the bottom of it. So it's really interactive for the children as well. And while you and your wife are busy, they have some coloring to do and keep them busy and happy. And then for your wife, a lot of girls like myself could be calorie conscious or health conscious. We do have a full sugar-free range of ice creams, and I think some of the flavors are absolutely fantastic. We have a coconut sugar-free dessert, which is like a ice age, we call it, which is like a Japanese snow dessert concoction that we've come up with, and that is my absolute favorite in the no added sugar range. It's again got crispy sort of coconut pieces at the bottom with this flaky sort of snow on top, and it's really refreshing and delicious. Also for the kids, we've got now something called the good old chocolate, which is not made from sugar. It's not got sweetener, so completely safe for pregnant women and children to eat it. It's made out of palm jaggery, so actually got various health benefits in it as well. And honestly, the chocolate flavor is absolutely amazing. You can't tell that it's, not made out of sugar, and that's something that I highly recommend for the kids as well.
Now, the kind of vibe and the passion I'm feeding off of, I would like to ask you that what is your vision? Like, what exactly do you intend to bring in the future with Gold? Because
absolutely,
the more passionate you are, I think the better you can build a business and the product basically runs the market.
Sure, absolutely.
So you are so passionate, which has got me a little bit more passionate about the things I do. So I am curious just to know what does the future look like for Gold?
So, I mean, God willing, we're taking one step at a time to begin with, and this is some advice I would give to anyone trying to start small, learn, and then keep moving. So we are learning from the mistakes we've made with our first location. We are, fingers crossed, in the midst of signing 2 to 3 more locations around Bombay. And once we do that, and once we have Mumbai a little more established, we're also looking to get Gold into more of the retail market. So your Kinara shops and your Nature's Baskets, etc. We started already supplying to Nature's Basket and stuff in tubs, but very soon we'll be launching some impulse buys, so small candies, etc. All in ice cream form as well in the retail market.
Ice cream candies?
Ice cream candies.
Oh, that's the first time I'm hearing of this. Ice cream candies.
Even in our store currently, if you go, we have various ice cream candies. They're little ice cream bites, so they could look like, for example, a cake, or they could look like a lolly, but they're actually ice cream based. We have some really fun ones made out of cupcakes for children in the store as well right now. So that's kind of something we're exploring in the retail market. So it'll be pre-packaged. It has to have a sort of different shelf life, etc. for the stores. So we're looking at launching that hopefully in the next couple of months. Post Mumbai, of course, we have a couple of different cities in our eye that we want to expand within India. And like I mentioned, I really am very much looking forward to taking Gold to Dubai and to the UAE in general. I do need to do a little more setup before I can take it there, but that's kind of the vision map at the moment.
That's amazing. Now, thank you so much, Alisha, for bringing this kind of passion, this kind of drive, and this kind of zeal for a niche business which we might think might run only on a particular season, and taking it to so many heights and launching a new brand called Gold and having a vision of acquiring the nation and moving abroad. I mean, this is commendable, and this is something which I am learning from, and I hope our listeners will too. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. Guys, so we learned today that business can be made in any particular sector. It has no boundaries. You don't even have to think of the reasons, you don't have to think of the seasons. There's nothing. It's just you, your idea, your passion, your attitude, and everything what you have with you, given to you at all times. So stay tuned for more. Thank you so much for listening. Keep listening to Life Unscripted.